All right, good morning. It is Sunday, week 6. This is Big Facts. I'm here with Justin Everett, and we have a couple pretty awesome games this week, Justin. Some good matchups that I'm really excited for, and an Eagles game that I'm excited to watch because it looks like some young guys are going to get some opportunities this week. Don't love the injury bug that's still going on, but love the fact that I'm going to see some guys play. How are you this morning, Justin? Because I know that you're very, very optimistic about what we got going on this week.
I'm getting through one day at a time, brother. I am optimistic. I'm a little bit more optimistic about these kids than you are. I know that you think that the Philadelphia football Eagles are going to get their teeth kicked in. And I know everybody else does, which is what makes this probably my favorite game of the week. Probably my favorite one.
Philly fans are half of them are saying that they're going to get the teeth kicked in, and half of them are saying it's going to be an upset. So we're here to split that even more for you guys. So what I want to do, Just, and a couple things happened this week that we'll get to, but I definitely want to start with the matchups this week with the Eagles. I want to go down and just get our picks out of the way for the week so we can really dig into this Eagles-Baltimore matchup. So we got our lines and picked the best lines between CBS Sports and DraftKings. The lines have moved a little bit. We had an abysmal week last week, as most sports bettors and experts did. But
I don't even want to know what my record was, bro.
It was probably both of ours were sub 500, I believe. We picked a lot of the same games last week. It was a bad week with the spread, and even a bad week actually just as far as upsets go. So we got the Washington football team going against the Giants. The Giants are giving 3 points to the Washington football team. Who do you got?
I mean, Washington wins this game outright. No? I mean, 0-5?
The 3 points at home thing, I don't know what the Giants are doing in Meadowlands, if they're letting fans in the stadium or anything like that, but the Giants at 0-5 giving points to any team is weird to me, so I'm going with Washington.
I'm with you. +3.
Browns +3.5 against the Steelers.
I'm going Browns, bro.
I thought you would. I'm going Steelers. I know, again, we're talking about different situations with COVID, but the Browns have not beaten the Steelers in the Mike Tomlin era. The last time they beat the Steelers was pre or during 2003. This is an interesting matchup. 2000.
Pick me.
You? Go ahead.
Pick me.
What do you got there?
The Pittsburgh Steelers combined opponents record through their impressive 4-0 start is 3-15-1. Give me the Browns. Give me the Browns outright. Yeah. I don't even want points. Give me the Browns.
So I like the thing with the Steelers this week is the biggest strength that they have is not in their secondary, right? You would agree it's their defensive line. Myles Garrett's playing out of his mind. The line's good. Even their offensive line's good. It's one of the reasons they're in the position that they're in. I watched the Steelers and Big Ben absolutely torch a good offensive line. Now, our defense is not playing as well, obviously, as the Browns' defense right now. So I'm not going to compare the two defenses, but he's a guy that knows how to get the ball out of his hands quickly if he needs to. The Browns are a little banged up. They have a emergency third. This is how funny the Browns are with their front office and why they've been so bad over the last couple years. They signed a QB3 because Baker's hurt, right? And Case Keenum's their backup. They needed a QB3. Baker's going to play, but he's got, I think, a rib or a chest injury. They didn't realize when they signed the QB3 for emergency duty this week that because of COVID protocols, he couldn't be eligible to play anyway. So they're going into this game with two quarterbacks, signed someone for basically no reason. I like the Steelers. I like Tomlin. The Browns have a little bit more that they're giving me this year, but I have to see them do it in the division. And we'll see how that goes. So I'm taking the Steelers.
Titans, that would only happen in Cleveland. There's no other place that would go wrong other than Cleveland.
That's your job. It's your only job. It's one of your only jobs.
What's next? I'm sorry.
Someone's not happy. Yeah, the Titans are giving 3.5 points to the Texans.
Titans -3.5.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty easy game. I think the Titans, the way I've watched them, are one of the best teams in the league this year. We'll see how that goes. Panthers giving a point to the Bears.
What do you got on this one?
I'm going with the Bears. So the Bears just came off a win against an offense more potent than the Panthers against TB12 last week. Obviously, made an error at the end of the game. They still won the game. And that defense, the strength of the Panthers as of right now is their offense. The Bears defense has given up the fewest TDs in the league through
I'm gonna
week
go.
5.
I'm gonna go Carolina -1, bro. I think this is where we watch Nick Foles descend back to the gravity of Earth.
I mean, he hasn't been great anyway, but the Bears, this is actually my lock of the week. I love the Bears. I love this game. The Bears are at home, and I can figure out a way to beat them. That's one of my locks.
Okay.
Cam Newton's coming back from injury. The Broncos are decimated with injuries. The Pats are giving 9.5 to the Broncos.
Broncos cover.
So you like the Pats winning and the Broncos covering?
Yeah, I think the Pats win by a field goal late.
You think the Pats,
yes,
with Cam Newton coming back,
yes,
by Bill Belichick.
Yes. I don't care about your qualifiers. You think that the New England Patriots are the next fucking dynasty. Yes, I believe that Denver can cover a 9.5-point spread against an overrated Patriots team. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think they can, but we'll see. Patriots are going to win by more than a field goal.
Your Patriots -9.5. You're giving 9.5 and saying that Broncos don't cover.
I think the Broncos are going to score, if they're lucky, 10 points.
Okay, so the Broncos don't cover. So Aaron is Pats. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Bengals +7.5 against the Colts.
Easy one here, bro. This is the lock of the week.
Who do you got?
The Bengals. Cub, you're getting 7.5?
Yeah. I agree with that. So I liked the Colts coming into the season. I still like the Colts. But Phillip Rivers is obviously well past. It looks like he's a year or two past. He shouldn't be a starting quarterback in this league. It almost looks like anymore, right?
It looks like a year or two after what Brett Favre did in Minnesota. Yeah, it looks bad. It looks bad.
He can't move. The Bengals got embarrassed last week. They didn't play well. They turned the ball over. I don't see Joe Burrow. This team seems like the type of kid that's not going to do that 2 weeks in a row. So I like the Bengals. I'm not sure if they're going to win outright. Darius Leonard is out for the Colts. And, I like the Bengals with the points. I don't know who wins the game. I'd have to say the Colts still win just because they are the top defense in the league. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals upset them. Vikings giving 4 to the Falcons. You love your Falcons, man, and every week they burned you. Who do you got this week?
So look, this game took me like no bullshit 25 minutes to decide earlier when I was doing this. It has nothing to do with the assumption that at some point Matt Ryan's going to win a game or a Calvin Ridley or Julio's going to have. It has nothing to do with the Falcons. I hate the Vikings. I hate everything I've seen. I hate Kirk Cousins. I hate how they don't use Dalvin Cook. I hate the Vikings. Hate. The Falcons just fired their head coach, bro. If they're going to win a game this year, it's this week. I'm going to take the 4, and I'm going to say it on record, everybody. Look right in the camera. Last time I picked the Falcons if I lose again. Falcons +4.
Picking the Falcons at this point is probably similar to picking the Browns the last decade. I have to go with the Vikings based off the collapses I've seen the Falcons take based on just about – Dalvin Cook is out, so we don't have to worry about the Vikings not handing the ball off to Dalvin Cook because he's not even going to play this week. But the Vikings barely lost. The Vikings lost to the Seahawks last week because Mike Zimmer made a bad decision at the end of the game. They look like they're starting to piece it together offensively. Justin Jefferson's been really good for them. I don't see the Falcons really doing anything. They're both bad teams. I like the Vikings. So I'm going to take the Vikings -4. You got the Falcons +4. Lions giving 3 to the Jaguars in maybe the worst game of the week.
That's okay. I know that you got a hard on for Gardner. So what are you doing?
I'm actually taking the Lions this week.
Oh, me too. Lions -3. I'm with you. Okay.
They got some injuries over there on the Jaguars side. Our boy Sidney Jones is playing lights out, but he's just about the only person on the Jaguars playing that way. I hate the Lions too, man. I think Matt Patricia is in over his head. I think for the most part, he's actually lost his locker room. But I still think the Lions are just a better team. I think Stafford's a better quarterback, and I'll take the Lions -3.
All right.
Dolphins,
We agree.
Dolphins -9.5. Playing the Jets.
First of
Every
all,
week.
What a trap. The Jets released Le'Veon Bell. They have no reason that they should even come close to competing in this game. If there's ever been a fucking trap game, it's this one. But I can't not take the Dolphins over the Jets. I'll lay the 9.5, and I got to take the Dolphins.
Yeah, the Jets are playing with Flacco, and they're really, really impressive rookie offensive left tackle is also out of an already. He was probably the shining star on this offensive line, if there is one.
So you love me, Flacco.
Yeah, the Dolphins win this game by 17 to 20 points. Packers giving one to the Bucks a week after Tom Brady's little mishap at the end of the game. Who do you got here?
Well, it comes down to who do I like better, Tom Brady at 42 years of age, or what looks like Aaron Rodgers' best season he's ever had. I'm going to put the point out, and I'm going to take the Packers and think Rodgers handles business.
Yeah, so it's hard to bet against Tom when he has 10 days to prepare for a team, but the Packers are first or second, in my opinion, right now. Probably second behind Seattle, but I think in a heads-up match right now, they'd probably beat Seattle. I think they're I'd have to say they're the best team in the league, in my opinion. Devontae Adams is also back. I like the Packers. I think the Bucs defense is going to have some trouble. Right. Rams -3 against the 49ers.
So I don't want to say that watching the Eagles beat the Niners showed me how bad that team could be. But when I look at the Rams team, this Rams team has 18 months to figure it out before everything that they have done is irrelevant now. So I think when you look at what San Francisco's trying to build, where their youth is, I mean, dude, I think they're the only team other than the Eagles to have more injured starters. I gotta take the Rams -3. I just don't think that San Francisco's got the punch that they need to get it done. So I'm going Rams -3.
Yeah, I don't love this matchup either way. I wouldn't pick this game if I was actually going to bet a couple games this week. The reason I'm also taking the Rams is because they're the team that's had their units together for the most part for most of this year, the same unit last year for the most part, and the Niners are plugging in, playing almost in the same way the Eagles are, and they got some backup quarterbacks certain weeks playing better than their starters other weeks, and it just looks like there's a lot of moving parts over there, so I'm taking this team that's had some stability with their players and their coaches. Rams -3. Chiefs giving 4.5 to the Bills. Both teams lost last week. I guess you would consider both of those upsets, but Chiefs giving 4.5 to the Bills. Who do you got?
Who do you got?
I got the Chiefs. It's hard to bet. It's hard to think that the combo of Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes is going to, first of all, lose back-to-back games. So I have the Chiefs winning. But I also think he's not playing this week. He's not playing this week, but he'll be playing next week. The Chiefs are going to be pissed. They lost to the Raiders last week. You shouldn't lose to the Raiders. I don't care if it's a division game, if it's not a division game. This guy's coaching, this guy's playing. They're pissed.
When you're looking at two teams that lost, right? When you're looking at two teams that both lost games they shouldn't have, and I don't want to say that about the Bills. The Titans are a really good team. I don't want to say that the Bills shouldn't have lost. They lost to a very good team. The Chiefs got their teeth kicked in by a team that had no business competing with them. When you have two teams coming off of losses that they weren't expecting, you got to look at talent down the lineup. What guys are going to come out and play harder because they lost last week and they shouldn't have, and it tastes bad still. And again, I think 5 years from now, Josh Allen's probably in the same conversation as, I don't want to say maybe as Pat Mahomes, but as a top 5 quarterback once he gets some consistency under him. But right now, today, on October whatever the fuck we're on, 2020, Josh Allen's still coming. He's not there yet. And if I have to pick between Pat Mahomes, who's a proven winner, who comes out and does extraordinary shit week in and week out, he's not going to take this game lightly. I don't think it's close. I don't think 4.5 is even fair enough of a line. I think that this is the ego check that the Bills needed, where Tennessee was they lost a good game to a good team. They're going to get their fucking soul crushed this week.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a little closer than that. I don't see a blowout, but I'm very happy to lay 4.5 to the Bills. Cardinals, Cowboys.
This is
one more.
This is the one I'm talking about. This is the worst. This is the worst pick of the entire week. I mean, not even close. The worst pick of the entire week. So we're both high on Arizona. We both agree that Kyler Murray is going to be a perennial MVP finalist. D-Hop has looked incredible. They look really, really good. But they've also at times showed us this is a fucking young team that does not really know what they're doing, does not have their legs under them. And if Andy Dalton, the X factor here is the Cowboys' offensive line. If Tyron Smith is healthy, if Travis Frederick doesn't retire last year, if we have the 2015 Dallas Cowboys offensive line, this is easy as it gets. Andy Dalton's got all the protection he needs. He'll have as much time to get that ball out of his hands as he wants. We don't have that now. And what's the line on this game?
Cardinals giving 1 to the Cowboys.
Cardinals are giving 1. I mean, dude, it's who do you trust more? Do you trust Kyler with his one weapon in D-Hop, or do you trust Dalton, the Red Rocket, with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott?
Listen, there's 2 things that are going to happen in this game. The first thing is everybody is going to see over the next couple weeks how good of a quarterback Andy Dalton actually is. And he's been in a really, really bad franchise that unfortunately Joe Burrow is going to have to deal with for the next 10 years. And Joe Burrow is going to be really good as well. And that team's just not going to win as many games as they should. So that's the first thing. You're going to see what you get from Andy Dalton. And again, it's almost like the same offensive line, not quite as bad that they have in Cincinnati because Tyron Smith's out, Frederick's gone, and I think one of their guards is like one of the only remaining starters. They might have 2 remaining starters on that line right now. But the thing that this does is Dak perfected that offense. I think we could both agree. He led the league in passing yards. I think he led the league in passing touchdowns. He had weapons all over the place. He knew what he was doing. He knew where everyone was going to be. Dalton is going to come into that, but I think they're going to adjust their game plan a little bit more to feed Zeke. I think it's going to work out well for them. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be able to do much against that. I think they lost one of their big linebackers last week. I forget who it was. I like the Cowboys rallying around Andy Dalton this week. And I like them winning this game by 6 points or so. The Cardinals have disappointed me a little bit this week. I'm taking the Cowboys. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to break there, bro. If I'm in a pick'em game, which a -1 +1 is a pick'em game, I got to go Kyler and D-Hop. I don't see that. Yeah. That Cowboys secondary is atrocious. If DeAndre Hopkins has 12 receptions and 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, Dallas can't win this game.
Yeah, no, I just think there's not a big drop-off for going from Dak to Dalton, and I think if they have to throw the ball, they'll throw the ball if the game's dictating that way, and if they have to run the ball, they can run the ball. So I just think that at some point, man, listen, when the Cowboys and the Eagles right now both have big-name guys on their defense, but the Cowboys have one in almost every level. They have a guy at linebacker. They have some guys on the D-line. They have one guy in the secondary. We're just D-line heavy. I think at some point They're going to figure out how to play together. That doesn't mean they're going to be a good defense. I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be an atrocious defense all year. At some point, it has to give. But I'm excited to watch that game. I think it's going to be.
You decided to pick the Cowboys before we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles game where you're going to pick against them.
Well, that's just how the cookie crumbles, man. So,
hi, Bruce Almighty.
All right. So the Ravens are giving 9.5 to the Eagles in a game where the Eagles have shuffled their offensive line again. So we saw Lane Johnson get carted off the field last week. We haven't had much issue at guard, but Jordan Mailata has been filling in at left tackle admirably. And now we have a right tackle situation, and Matt Pryor is also out. So Driscoll's going to be at right tackle. Brown's going to be at right guard. Kelsey's going to play. Herbig is going to be at left guard. Mailata is going to be at left tackle. Deshaun is not going to play. I think they said Alshon's going to get some snaps this week, but he might. I think he might be out too. I think they might have last minute rolled him out of the game. So Fulgham's going to get his opportunity. We have Duke Riley, I believe, is out, and who's going to be taking his place? Linebacker from Temple. Is it Sean Bradley?
Yeah.
So we're going to get to see. We're going to get to see Kevon Wallace today. Will Parks has been activated from injured reserve, and he's going to get some snaps today. So a couple young safeties. Tell me what you think about this matchup, Justin, because this just on paper looks like.
I got a couple of problems with what you just said in your dialogue there. Mailata has not filled in admirably. Mailata has been one of the top 5 left tackles in football for the last 2 weeks that he's played.
Stop. No, he's not.
When Nate Herbig comes in the first 2 weeks and you pull up Pro Football Focus and say, oh, he was rated as the second left guard, you don't get the same shit and then throw it back at us and say, no, this is a fact, bro. The fact is that Mailata is a B+, A- left tackle right now, and he still doesn't know how to play his position right. So if I've got B+, A- right now out of a guy that's only played football for 3 years, I'm going to take my chances on that guy and let him progress and let him build and develop. If this team wins a division with 6 or 7 wins, you're not going to win a playoff game. You're not going deep. You're going to get your fucking teeth smashed in by Seattle or Green Bay or whoever it is you get faced with. Let this kid play. So Mailata is not admirably filled in. Mailata's played exceedingly well for what expectations were. We assumed that this kid was going to get wrecked, absolutely wrecked, and he hasn't once yet. He hasn't given up an egregious sack. He hasn't given up pressure after pressure after pressure after pressure. He's adapted well, and he's played solid. Here's my problem with this game. I look at Lamar Jackson, and I know that you think Lamar Jackson is as good as Pat Mahomes, and I don't know what the fuck type of glasses you wear when you see that, but
as good. He's an MVP. He just won an MVP last year. You gotta give him You gotta give him his respect.
Fucking MVP. Give me a fucking break. Steve Nash.
Hold on.
Give me
how easy is it to win an MVP?
Now or 10 years ago when MVPs were a real thing?
Ever.
Stop. Stop.
Tell me who's won an MVP that didn't go on to be one of the better quarterbacks of their time.
That can't be real, bro.
Who's won an MVP that didn't end up being, over their career, one of the best quarterbacks of their time?
Quarterback, where was Lamar Jackson ranked last year in his MVP year?
He threw more touchdowns than anybody in football last year.
As a passing quarterback, that means completion percentage. That means completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, interceptions. That's the whole picture. I don't give a fuck about his touchdown number. Brett Favre threw 40 and 38 interceptions one year. What was he ranked?
If Mike Vick at any point with his Falcons or Eagles threw almost 40 touchdowns, he would have immediately been the MVP of the league because he can also run. It's not just we talk about this all the time. MVP means value, the value to your team. So the Ravens, from one year to the next, Lamar was the most valuable player, not just on that football team, but probably in his conference, especially because Pat Mahomes got injured at one point last year, and he played better than any quarterback last year. Do I think he's going to do that every year from now on? No. We're starting to we have to make the guy throw the football, right? And he's got to prove that he can do that. But go ahead. I'll let you finish your point.
He played better than any quarterback last year? What a silly thing to say. What a fucking silly thing to say. Anyway, I look at this team and I look at what Lamar Jackson provides. And Lamar Jackson is Michael Vick. Thank you for bringing that up and getting to the point for me. Lamar Jackson is Atlanta pre-prison and pre-learning football Michael Vick. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson does not know how to extend a play unless it's him running. Lamar Jackson does not know how to throw a receiver open. Lamar Jackson does not know when to get rid of the ball. This is a matchup of defensive line versus defensive line. It's going to be who, what scheme, and what quarterback gets the ball out of their hands faster and who can accomplish not getting destroyed, honestly. Lamar Jackson is one fucking Brandon Graham kick to the mouth away from becoming Robert Griffin III. Every running quarterback like that is. It's what separates Pat Mahomes from those guys. It's what separates Russell Wilson from those guys. Because Russell Wilson was a mobile quarterback. We remember this a handful of years ago when he hit the league and he was running all fucking over the place. What did Russell Wilson do that we see now this year that made him, you and I agree, 1, 2, or 3 in the league right now? He stopped making the plays about his legs, and he learned how to be a fucking quarterback. And Lamar Jackson does not know how to be a quarterback. What I will say in the defense of what the Eagles are and what my pick is going to be, the last 2 weeks I have seen Carson Wentz develop further to what we used to see in 2017. He made smarter plays with his feet. He was able to move the pocket when necessary. He threw a couple of guys open. The touchdown pass to Fulgham was a touch pass that for the first 3 weeks didn't look like he knew how to throw. I am looking at Lamar Jackson versus Carson Wentz with Carson Wentz's weapons versus Lamar Jackson's weapons. And I'm looking at if the Eagles' front seven can stop Dobbins in that rushing attack and hold Lamar Jackson from being able to run 25 yards every play, that defense will stop this team from scoring more than 17 to 20 points. If, in turn, Carson Wentz can get the ball out fast, use Miles Sanders out of the backfield, they don't run 17 fucking wide receiver screens to Greg Ward. If the scheme and the execution works out pristine, this defense can stop Lamar Jackson easier than Baltimore's can stop Carson. And if Carson plays like he has and continues his upward trajectory and Lamar continues downward, this is prime for an upset. I'm not going to say it's a lock. I'm not going to say I know it for a fact. This is a game that is prime for an upset because the Eagles are on the upswing and the Ravens are starting to have to deal with the stark reality of John Harbaugh cannot train a quarterback to become a quarterback. They need a guy to teach Lamar how to be a real quarterback.
So you're taking, first of all, obviously the Eagles to cover, right?
Absolutely. 9.5? Are you fucking at home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, we talk about matchups all the time, right? And the first thing I want to point out is that when the Eagles do not have Lane Johnson, they simply, for the last, basically since Carson's rookie year, they just do not win football games. Now, that doesn't make up for a whole 9.5 point spread, but when you lose Lane Johnson and then you lose Brandon Brooks and then Dillard and Peters are out and Kelsey's your only starter on the line and now Brown's making his first start and you're going up against one of the best defensive lines in the league, it's the worst matchup of the entire NFL Week 6 is the Eagles offensive line against the Ravens defensive line. Now you have to give credit to the Eagles offensive line coach, because over the last 5 weeks, he's done an unbelievable job getting these guys prepped. So when I look at this, I don't think it's going to be a massive fall off. But when you're plug and playing new starters, you can't run your whole playbook. You can't do zone runs. You're not going to get a lot out of Miles Sanders, because even though these guys have been really good in pass protection, they're not getting off blocks and getting to the second level in the run game. We saw that last week. They couldn't run the football at all, except for the one
right now. You don't know that. Jack Driscoll.
I do.
Jack Driscoll hasn't played right tackle every down. You haven't had the new right guard in.
It's not about the individual talent of the guys. I like all the individual talent, but the offensive line has to play together as a group. And when you're trying to run an advanced offense and these guys are making their first, second, and third starts in the NFL, especially going against that Ravens D line, I don't think they're going to be able to run the football at all. So now this all falls on Carson Wentz.
Offense. What about a zone run as advanced offense? That's fucking that is literally bro.
Because you got two guys that you drafted from Auburn. One of them starting this week. The guy at right guard's making his first start, and Jordan Mailata is playing his third NFL game. So the only constant you've had on your offensive line is Kelsey. Not to mention Brooks and Lane Johnson are two of the best run blocking tight ends in the league. It's the only reason you've been able to run the football for the last couple of years. And aside from Miles Sanders' 70-yard touchdown last week, the Eagles couldn't run the ball at all. So to think that they can go in a similar situation to the Ravens defense and the Pittsburgh defense, who are very similar defenses, and think that they can run the football, I just don't think they can do it. The other issue is that you got Alshon out, obviously. You got Deshaun out, whatever it is, what it is. I'm excited to see the new guys play. John Hightower is going to be in the slot. Ward's going to be over there. Fulgham's going to be over there. Now, Fulgham, to me, again, I talked about this the other day. You weren't on here. We watched Greg Ward at the end of the year last year, right? And we were like, this guy deserves to have a chance to start. We didn't look at Greg Ward. He was making big plays. He was, carrying the offense a little, but we didn't look at Greg Ward and be like, this guy has the potential to be a star in the league. We're just like, look, this is a great option for us, and we need to see if he can play in NFL games because he might be able to be a second or third guy. When I watched Travis Fulgham last week, I'm like, where the hell did this guy come from? He's big, he's tall, he runs routes well, he has a huge catch radius. So I'm excited to see him go against some corners that can actually play in the secondary on the Ravens. They got Humphrey and Marcus Peters. They have a good secondary. They're not elite, but they're a good secondary. So we're going to get to see it. Pittsburgh doesn't have a great secondary. They have Hayden and really good safety. So we're going to see Fulgham. We're going to see if Hightower can really play this week. But when you're relying on Wentz to just go in with, again, practice squad receivers against the Ravens defense, it's not the NFC East, which he did against the end of the year. And I'm giving him all the credit in the world for doing that. He put on an amazing performance, but he didn't have 4 new starters on the offensive line either. I just think if you can't get the run going against the Ravens defense, it's not going to be easy to pass the ball. I think they're going to not to mention, we have new linebackers and Gary's still starting. We have Mark Andrews with Lamar Jackson on this side. Mark Andrews has been one of the best tight ends in the league over the last 2 years, and I don't see or know who's going to be able to cover him this week. Higbee burned us for 3 touchdowns, and he's nowhere on Mark Andrews.
So you believe you believe that Philadelphia loses by more than 9.5, I assume, right?
I think they lose by 13 points this week.
Oh, fucking shit. Okay. Again,
27-14.
14. Listen,
there's nothing that makes me think the Eagles can put up points this week.
If you can't get the run game going out of the backfield, Miles Sanders is one of those running backs that does not need to get running downhill like Derrick Henry to get off of his feet. You put one fucking halfback screen gets Miles Sanders involved in the offense. If you run 6 rushing plays in the first quarter,
if your offensive line knows what they're doing, yes.
Oh my God, you still have Zach Ertz. You still have one of the best tight ends in football.
What has Zach Ertz done this year? Wait, what? Weren't we just talking last week about watching Zach Ertz looking like he doesn't even look like he wants to be there right now?
Zach Ertz to get 10 receptions and 100 yards, or am I in the middle of explaining how you can run a blocking scheme for a halfback screen?
Zach Ertz just your tight end. Okay.
Zach Ertz has blocked well this year. That's the only thing I can say that he's done well this year. is he's been a very good blocking tight end because he's probably scared to death to go up and get a ball and break a fucking rib and lose his contract. That is just the world we live in.
He's going to lose his contract if he doesn't start playing anyway.
Well,
so
he's already lost his contract, bro. I don't think that there's any he's gonnas. It's done. The point is, you are just like you think that fucking Cam Newton is like an MVP quarterback in New England. You are making Baltimore out to be this monolith that we know they aren't. Kansas City, we agree, is head and shoulders, line by line, a better team, right? They didn't just beat them.
They're better at quarterback.
They sucked the fucking life out of that team when they played. And it was just because of scheme. That's all it was. It was shutting down what Lamar wanted to do early, frustrate the young quarterback who has no experience and won a fucking MVP years before he would have deserved one, frustrate the young quarterback, shut down the run game, and try to get your offense rolling. That's what Andy Reid did. He made it happen, and he made it work, and they destroyed them. And again, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying if there is an upset this week, it's this game.
Well, we'll agree to disagree, and we'll see what happens, and we'll be back hopefully to review this.
Fucking mine, Aaron.
Tomorrow. So let's move on to a couple things. So Justin's got the Eagles, possible upset, but taking the points. I got the Ravens. I'm laying 9.5 on that, and we'll see, man. It's going to be interesting to watch. I'm excited to watch the game because I'm excited that the draft picks are going to get their opportunity. I had when the Eagles got Will Parks to try to shore up the secondary, there was a lot of Broncos fans that were tweeting at the Eagles and at the fans like, yo, you're getting a really good player. He knows what he's doing. He had a chance to start here, and he was really developing. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I think they're moving Jalen Mills back to corner this week. And Kevon Wallace will be starting with McLeod, I believe, or Will Parks. So we'll see what happens there. Some other things just happened while we were taking, or you were busy, we'll say. Le'Veon Bell got released by the Jets and fell into the hands of our guy, Andy Reid. Good fit for Le'Veon Bell. Do you think he can duplicate the type of production he had in Pittsburgh to a degree?
No, he's not the same player. I mean, we're years removed from that prime Le'Veon Bell. He's a 4.5 to 5 yards a carry, 800 yards a year. He's a situational back. I mean, he's what Adrian Peterson was in the tail end of Adrian Peterson's career. I don't even think he needs to duplicate, to be honest with you, dude. I think, honestly, what Kansas City wanted and what Andy Reid wanted was some level of a real running back to open up Pat Mahomes' game. I think it's that simple. They got a guy back there now that's proven to do it, and all he needs to do is bust out a couple of 12, 15, 18-yard runs, and that secondary immediately starts to cheat, and Pat Mahomes tears people up. I think it was more of a schematic move than it was they think he's still that same guy.
So I'm going to actually disagree with you, and here's why. It feels like Le'Veon's been in the league for longer than he actually has because he had some really good years early on with the Steelers, right? He had 2 or 3 1,500, 1,600-yard seasons. We were enamored by Le'Veon for a while because it was a new type of scheme or a new type of running back. He would wait patiently behind his offensive line for like 3 seconds before he would find a hole and burst. And you're like, I've never seen a running back just kind of sit there and dance until he saw a hole and went. He reminded me a little bit of LaShawn McCoy, but even LaShawn just bolted almost as soon as he got the ball. Le'Veon Bell is only 28 years old. And I have to give some level of finger pointing to just a sorry Jets franchise who just hasn't been good since Mark Sanchez's like first or second year there, right? It's been a decade since the Jets have been relevant in the NFL. They have an awful offensive line. They have an awful head coach. And again, Le'Veon Bell hasn't touched the ball much in the last 3 years. He didn't play for 1 year. He's getting like 3-4 carries a game. Frank Gore is getting more carries than Le'Veon Bell. He's 37 years old. Le'Veon Bell is literally only 28. We start to see a big drop off if guys get a lot of carries from about 22 to 28, 29 years old. And then we see them start to slow down once they're almost at 30 and beyond. Le'Veon hasn't played pretty much since he was 25 years old. So I like Andy Reid to be able to take a guy like that and find creative ways to get him involved. He's not going to get the workload that he would get in a place where he was at, like Pittsburgh, because they have other running backs there that are very good. They have running backs that they've won the Super Bowl with, and then they have a rookie in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I do think they're going to find a way to get him involved in the run game, north and south. I think they're going to find a way to get him involved in the pass game to give Mahomes an extra weapon. And I think it's going to be a really good thing for Le'Veon. He's only on a 1-year deal as well, so he has something to prove, because if he wants another contract coming up, he's going to have to play well this year. So Le'Veon, to me, is a home run with the Chiefs. They'll scheme for him. He's not going to play this week. We'll see him the first time next week. And I think it's a nice fit for Andy Reid, and I'm a little bit jealous. I didn't want him on the Eagles, by the way. Everybody was talking about that. It's just not the right fit, especially with the offensive line issues that we have. And Miles Sanders is the guy. There's no question about that. Miles Sanders is the guy.
If you had Jay Ajayi like a couple years ago, and that was your feature back, yeah, Lev Bell adds. But I mean, Miles Sanders he's a dual threat back. Miles Sanders, you got to argue, is probably a top 10 running back in the league. You're not gaining much if you were to bring him in. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. In NBA news,
oh shit.
In NBA news, so there was talk about Tyronn Lue going to Houston. We were a little confused by that. Yeah, I didn't think it was ever going to happen either. We were a little confused by that because it just didn't make any sense. So 2 reports this week. Tyronn Lue signs a 5-year deal with the Clippers, gets probably paid by Steve Ballmer, paid, right? Expectations are this year to win a championship. It is championship or bust for the Clippers, regardless of what anybody thinks. There are also some reports that came out I know you're going to love to talk about this, that Pat Beverly, Montrezl Harrell, and Lou Williams were a bit disgruntled by the star treatment that Kawhi got, not just because he was able to take off practices and games for load management, but since he's living in San Diego, he was apparently constantly late for team flights, which if I'm anybody's teammate and I'm sitting on a fucking plane for 30 or 45 minutes or an hour waiting for someone to get here because they're the star and they show up whenever the fuck they want, that pisses me off too, especially if we end up not winning, right? So if we win, all's forgiven. But if we don't, these things start to come out. What do you think of that situation? Did you see that coming? Because for me, and I'll let you go and take all the time you need. For me, I didn't see Kawhi Leonard being that type of guy. He says some stuff on the court. I never thought he lacked confidence, but he didn't come off to me as like an extremely cocky guy.
Well, so when he was leaving Toronto, when we had all that, his uncle was handling his press shit and all that weird nebulous of who the fuck knows who to talk to about Kawhi type stuff. I'm not surprised by Kawhi being a diva. I mean, he seems like a diva a little bit. This extent, fucking waiting an hour on a plane because you want to live in San Diego, and now that Kobe's dead, you don't want to take a helicopter. Tough fucking shit, bro. The rest of us got to live where we live. You know what I mean? I think it spells trouble for the Clippers franchise for one big reason, bros. You don't have Doc Rivers anymore. You don't have that guy who garners all of the respect. I'm not saying that Ty Lue doesn't get respect, but he's not Doc Rivers. I mean, if you get some rumbling in the locker room and Doc Rivers walks in and lays the law down and raises his voice, most motherfuckers shut up and listen. Ty Lue is not going to have that. I mean, we remember when Ty Lue was running the show with LeBron and Kyrie in Cleveland, and there was a ton of Kyrie versus LeBron, and what does LeBron get? What does Kyrie get? And Ty Lue couldn't handle that shit, bro. I think it spells the end of what this Clippers team is now. Now, you have Paul George for a decent period of time. You have Kawhi for a nice contract. You can build on that. But I don't think Patrick Beverley stays after he can get out. I don't think Lou Williams stays after he can get out. I don't think Montrezl Harrell stays after he can get out. I think Ivica Zubac tries to find a way out because he really believes he's going to be an up-and-coming big man. I think a lot of these younger guys and the old vets like the Pat Beverleys and the Lou Williams, whose role in this game is to give 1,000% all the time, I don't think those guys ever play with a player like that. And I think it's the difference of what LeBron does on teams. Like you look at a Rajon Rondo, Pat Beverley, Lou Williams, Rondo, they're all kind of the same ilk. You have 12, 13, 14-year guys that have been around the block. They know what they're doing. They know their role. Rondo gives the respect to LeBron because LeBron earns that shit. LeBron doesn't ask for special treatment. LeBron shows up for flights on time. LeBron doesn't take days off. LeBron is the one that leads by example. And what LeBron was different in this entire era of new superstars is LeBron was the guy that worked like Michael did. That was what Michael Jordan always was, right? Every day in the gym, Kobe, 1,000 shots a day. That's the type of work ethic that LeBron's got. And you can see just based on the ability of the player that Kawhi and Paul George don't have that. And I think a lot of those role players who were, in my opinion, far more important to that run that they went on than Kawhi or Paul George individually, I think you're going to start losing those guys left, right, and center. And if you start losing the Patrick Beverleys who eat up 20 minutes and play defense, and you start losing the 24 points that Lou Williams gives you off the bench in the playoffs, if you start losing that stuff, you're very quickly getting yourself into a position like Oklahoma City was with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook that couldn't win, with Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Kevin Durant that couldn't win. That's where you start. Washington, John Wall and Bradley Beal still can't win. That's where you're getting into danger as the Clippers organization if you start losing those role players. And you gotta imagine, dude, Ty Lue has got to come in and lay that law down. Like Kawhi, I don't give a shit that you won Toronto a title. I don't care. I won a title as a player. I won it as a coach. That's not special. You aren't special. We're going to play as a team. We're going to do everything together as a team the same way, or we can find a way to do this without you. And if Ty Lue doesn't come in with that attitude, a lot of those players are going to force their way out, bro. And that's danger for the Clippers.
Well, that is, and this is the only thing I'm going to disagree with you in. The reason they hired Ty Lue is because when and there's rumors and stories about this all over the place. There's articles written about Ty Lue after they won the championship, where from day one, first of all, the players, they love him, but they respect him. That's why he's been an assistant on some big teams. And from what we understand, he went right in as the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers and pretty much told LeBron, this is my fucking team. I'm the fucking coach, and this is the way we're going to do stuff. That doesn't mean LeBron doesn't have an input, because he's always going to have an input. His IQ is just higher a lot of times than his coaches. So they have those discussions, they come to a conclusion, and they execute it. Ty Lue had to handle egos that were way worse between LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, because we had stories coming out of Cleveland that Kyrie wouldn't talk to people for a week or two at a time sometimes. And you saw in interviews, he's like, there was a funny interview where they're like, how has LeBron been like a father figure to you? And Kyrie was like, a father figure? Like, fuck you. Like, he right. hated being in LeBron's shadow, right? So Ty Lue went in there, won a championship in a year where, they got one, and Kyrie's got this huge ego. LeBron's got this huge ego, and other players are starting to take a step back. So the reason that, he was always going to be on the Clippers is because Ballmer wants him to come in and do the same thing between Kawhi and the other. There's a lot of egos on the team. Harrell, as the sixth man of the year, has a huge ego. Lou Williams has been scoring 20 points a game for the last decade. Kawhi's got an ego. And
Pat Beverley's first fucking name is ego.
Right. And PG actually needs an ego boost, right? I mean, so there's other personalities, and then PG needs to get brought up. So they signed him to a 5-year deal. They know what they got from him because they saw him on the bench all year last year. He hires Chauncey Billups as his assistant coach. So they're a guard-heavy, forward-heavy team with guard-heavy coaching. It's going to be interesting. I don't know schematically how great Tyronn Lue is, but I know that everybody respects him as a leader and as a coach. And it is championship or bust, because if you don't win a championship next year and Kawhi's doing the same shit, you're going to have to blow some of those pieces up. And those pieces are what got you to 6 games against an elite Golden State Warriors team the year before. Those pieces are the only thing that even probably got you, into the playoffs this year, realistically, because Kawhi took 20 to 22 games off this year. A Paul George-led team with Lou Williams is not going to be like the best team in the world. They're probably going to be a 4, 5, 6 seed, maybe 7 seed in the West. Kawhi is a huge part of this, and they need to get him on the same page. I don't think they're going to come in. The expectation was probably set when they hired Lou, like, Kawhi's playing 75 games next year, not 60. He can take a game off every month and a half or so, but he's not taking 20 games off. And I would feel insulted if a star player came onto my team after I was doing pretty well without them to try to elevate us to a championship and was walking around like his fucking shit don't stink. And then we get knocked out by the fucking Nuggets when we're up 3-1. So, if the Clippers advance and even if they get to the finals, this conversation and these things never come out because everybody's happy. But unless you start winning, these things are going to continue to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved one guy this year and they tried to form a big 3, package some guys together and get one big man, power forward, stretch 4, whatever the case might be. So we'll see what moves are being made. We'll see what moves the Lakers make. And, your point between superstars that can't win together is correct. There's a bunch of superstars on a couple different teams that can't even make the playoffs. Aside from Wall's injury, Wall and Beal weren't the greatest tandem as it went regardless. So the Sixers with Doc Rivers, hoping they can get Ben Simmons and Embiid to play together and bring those egos together. An interesting point. I was listening to talk radio, and just human nature. We give Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid a lot of shit for a couple young guys that have been in the league for 4 or 5 years because they're so great. We expect them to win. But when you got a Tobias Harris who wants to be the man on the team, just human nature, Embiid wants to be the man on the team, Simmons wants to be a man on the team. The more I think about this, the more I feel like Doc Rivers was the right guy for the job because he got guys like, Garnett, Rondo, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce to play together. And as we've seen over the years, Garnett, Pierce, Rondo have massive egos. So just really hoping just to branch off the Clippers that the Sixers can do something this year.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern is every fucking report that I see is where Joel Embiid is getting traded to. But yeah, I mean, other than that,
they ain't happening.
Yeah,
they got.
Realistically, it can't be Embiid. It just can't be. It's what you've got out of Embiid. You know that you're in the middle of the prime. You know if he's handled right, what you're going to get out of him. There's no question marks left with him. If you're getting rid of a superstar, it's got to be Ben. It has to be. Like I'm seeing all these Embiid to Golden State for Wiggins and a high pick, and I don't see it happening, dude. I can't see Doc Rivers looking at these two superstars.
No, he came.
Embiid.
No, he came because he knows who's on the team. He didn't come in to say, I'm going to start trading these guys around. He's like, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, hell yeah, sign me up. I don't have to interview with anybody else. Let's fucking go.
Right.
So, we'll see how it happens. If you trade, you're slapping Doc in the face if you trade one of these guys this year. You got to give him a year or two to get that together, and hopefully we can get the most out of Tobias Harris. Going back real quick, I want to cover something because I talked about it, but I didn't ask you because we weren't on this week. Reports came out this week from the Eagles, just to go back to football real quick, that the coaches are actually waiting for Howie Roseman to let them know who's going to be dressing and who's not week by week. He's picking the guys that are going to be suiting up and potentially starting and backing up. And he's supposed to be letting the coaches know by Wednesday. And one of the issues that the Eagles have had this year is sometimes they don't know till Saturday who's going to be dressing and who's not. So we're talking about the depth, the second and third guys on the depth chart, and also the rookies. We're asking why our third-round linebackers not playing. We're asking at this point why our sixth-round linebackers not playing or our fifth-round linebacker because our linebackers can't play right now. I don't know if I buy it, but it's weird that type of report would come out if it wasn't true, because that's a weird kind of situation for a GM to be putting himself in. What do you make of that?
Why the fuck is the general manager deciding who dresses and who doesn't? Not Andy Reid, who is the coach and the general manager. Not
Doug Peter.
No. I'm drawing a parallel. Not Bill Belichick, who is the coach and the general manager. Not the guy who has 95% of the say and the GM is just there to hold a job. Not that guy. That guy makes the decision. What the fuck is Howie Roseman deciding about who dresses and who plays? How does that happen? How do you let this happen to this franchise? Doug Peterson is out there every day, watching these players every day, seeing
Jim Schwartz.
Seeing where the progression is, seeing what guys can go. This is the reason why you have staffs on the offense and the defense. It's not an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator and nobody. It's an O coordinator with an O-line coach, a wide receivers coach, a quarterbacks coach. You have these guys, this staff, to show you where the progression's coming from and who should get the chance and who needs to play. Who the fuck? What in the I'm sorry, did winning a Super Bowl in 2017, which for anybody who doesn't realize was this many years ago, was winning a Super Bowl that long ago, giving you 3 years later the ability to decide who plays and who doesn't? Howie Roseman's not been a personnel guy his entire career, counting the Super Bowl. Howie Roseman got them into a position in the cap to be able to acquire LeGarrette Blount, to be able to acquire Alshon Jeffrey. He positioned them to build that talent they had, but he sure as fuck didn't scheme the game. He sure as fuck didn't put the players out in the position. He sure as fuck didn't adapt quarter to quarter, play by play. No wonder Doug looks like a shitty coach. You're telling me that Howie Roseman gets to make the decision of who plays and who doesn't on Saturday?
Yeah, it's a weird. Even if he was if he was the one making the decision and it was Wednesday, that's weird because you're not on the practice field. I can't imagine he's dressed up in his suit, watching the offense and listening to the coach. And he's not a coach. He's a GM. He's there for cap reasons, for drafting, to talk to the coaches and see who might fit in schemes, to sign free agents. I mean, Howie goes to Doug, I'm sure anytime they're trying to bring somebody in, or goes to Jim Schwartz, say, hey, we're thinking about going to get this guy. What do you think? And now there's reports coming out that he's deciding who's going to dress or not.
That's ridiculous.
Dude. There was something said by Jim Schwartz last week after the game, and they're like, you guys haven't invested in the linebackers position. And he was like, hey, I just coach what I'm given. I don't do any of that stuff. And he's right to an extent. Now, that doesn't make up for, listen, if you're weak at the linebacker position and your guys just aren't as talented as some of the offensive linemen they're going up against, some of the receivers that they have to cover, that's one thing. But that's not what's going on. The linebackers are not ever in position when a quarterback changes the read at the line, they don't know how to adjust. There was plays, especially that one with Chase Claypool last week, where Ben Roethlisberger looked over and he's like, holy shit, Jerry's on fucking Claypool. Hey, dude, fucking just run straight. And that's exactly what happened last week, and nobody made an adjustment. There's no captain on the defense. Everybody's out of position. Their eyes are in the backfield. Some of that's coaching, but if a guy shouldn't be on the field and Howie's telling me who I have to dress and I have to play this guy, that kind of gives Jim Schwartz a little break, and he's trying to defend his position a little bit, which I get. He's been a coach in this league a long time. He wasn't a great head coach, but he's been a pretty good defensive coach. He plays bend, don't break, but we're breaking all over the place. So I'm excited to see a couple new linebackers and a couple new safeties, see if that does anything. Sometimes these kids come in, man, and they just have something to prove, and they're excited to play, and they know the best thing that they can do is be in the right spot, not necessarily like if you're watching tape and you just get juked out of a tackle, that's one thing. If you're out of position, you're getting, your ass handed to you in the film room. So I'm hoping these guys can just kind of come in, elevate their game, get excited to play, and maybe change this defense a little bit. Because if we do change the defense, we're going to win some more football games. The offense has been doing its job the last couple weeks.
Not this one.
No, not this one. No, not against the Ravens. We'll disagree on that till after the game. We'll see what happens. Joss, anything that you want to add before we get off that isn't a blasphemous take?
I don't think so. I mean, blasphemy is you talking shit on your favorite team, but that's all right. I'll let you blaspheme as much as you'd like to. Watch Jordan Mailata today. Watch what this offensive line can do. We're going to learn a lot about what this team is made of by watching this offensive line come together, however that is that they come together. If it's bad, it's because this team can't learn each other. If it's good and they get an offensive line group going with literally 4/5 new people, it would be pretty impressive. Watch the offensive line play. I'm calling out Derek Barnett to have a big game today. I think literally, honestly, you know what? I'm going to go a step further. I'm calling out this defensive line to have a monster game today. Like, I'm going to say 6 sacks, an interception, and a forced fumble. I think this is a big, big game for this defense.
You know, they need it, first of all, because Lamar's going to run around back there, and they have to be able to contain and keep their gaps, get some pressure off the middle, right up the middle sometimes. I'd like to see Jim Schwartz blitz a little bit more today and just make him get rid of the ball a little more quickly. But that's hard to do when your linebackers are out of position. We saw Roethlisberger make a lot of pre-snap reads last week and change a lot of plays because he saw what was going on and we could not adjust. Lamar's not that type of quarterback. He's not great with his pre-snap reads. He doesn't always go through his first, second, third progression. He usually goes 1-2, but he's usually decided right after the snap who he's going to go to when he throws that football. So he will turn the ball over if you put some pressure on him. I'm hoping they blitz a little bit more. Of course, I'd like to see an upset, man. I don't want to see the Eagles lose. I'm a realist, and this is a bad matchup. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back with you. I'll probably be back at halftime, hopefully for a couple minutes to go through this.
You're a pessimist, but go Birds. Am I right?
Go Birds. I'll see you in a little bit, Just. We'll talk more.
All right.